can we use this new technology to improve, and how will this transform our corporate and social structures? A bit of a rewilding needed in terms of creating more open systems, so that they can self clean and self adjust. And now I'm working specifically on sort of a move towards a more nature inspired approach, and with a project doing Magical Earth Academy here at, I'm at in Roatan for the pop-up city that used to be called Italia. It's now called Infinitas. Like, it's a long story. You may have heard it, but essentially, like, having access to these bioscientists, curious minds, and trying to introduce this concept of, like, well, we have some traditional wisdom and art and spirituality, and how, like, in a playful way, in a non-threatening, like, suspend disbelief, create this, like, open a space, a safe space, and sort of, like, with play introduce those and have them meet, and then, I guess, count on the natural curiosity that scientists have in terms of, like, hey, I could design an experiment for this and how this work, and this, we're trying to bring them together and to see how a new proof of value system could emerge in terms of, like, this proof of work, proof of stake, whatever. They're very limiting and reducing the multidimensionality of humans in terms of, like, one direction, one aspect. And I do want to introduce these discussions, like, okay, what's value? How do we get to a new theory of values? And how do we actually understand the dynamics of a multi-dimensional group of people, in what they can bring together and create together? So it's a very interesting exercise. I'm happy to be here for the duration because of that. So yeah.
Cool.
Norbu, you want to introduce yourself and what brought you to
Sure.
this call?
Yeah, I'm Norbu, and I have most recently been project managing a development team for a company called HoloChain. And HoloChain, if you know them, they use a natural design system to structure their whole ecosystem, actually. Like, the pieces of the code themselves are called like zones and DNAs, and they, like, use like smallest particles of living systems to designate their software. I am most interested in, having delved pretty deep over the last couple of years in decentralized solutions, with but in a very kind of walled garden of HoloChain. It's very unique in that it's not about interoperability. It could be, someone could bridge with HoloChain, but that's not their goal. Their goal is not interoperability. Their goal is to streamline software development on their platform, and from there, anything can be built. It's an open source project, and so, but that starting from that point of view, I spent those 2 years kind of out of the loop of the rest of Web3 as it was developing. Not completely out. I went to some identity. I went to the International Identity Conference, and I went to DWeb Camp and a few other places where I was, interacting with lots of people. But I just recently was exposed to Parallel Societies Congress in Thailand, and that was really eye-opening for me and exciting. And so the main, and then I also met Zeev at a couple of events in Chiang Mai, and it just sparked a whole nother angle for me, as far as I, like many people, have felt that there's great opportunity, but moving the behemoth of existing systems is so tedious. It's, like, difficult to set in motion plans that won't have fruit in my lifetime. And we have the technology to build things now on top of existing infrastructure to test and experiment. And that's what I'm excited about, especially in the areas of interconnection between humans and health and well-being.
Yeah, humanity.
It's exciting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. You.
Okay, Sam, Zeev, glad that you joined. Sam, I don't think we've met at any of the digital spaces. It's nice to meet you. You want to quickly introduce yourself so we all feel safe to know who you are, what brought you here?
Hi. Yeah. My name's Sam. I think I've met a number of you. Met Steve for the first time in Chiang Mai during the pop-up village season back in October. I was organizing a whole bunch of stuff there, including something called the Digital Humanities Art College, which was really about creating spaces between pop-up cities where anyone could learn about topics that were on the human side of all this digital stuff that's going on. I think Norbu, I think we met in Bangkok at the Parallel Society Congress briefly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Over there as well. Now I was involved in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm doing DEF CON as well, organizing the Region Hub, Community Hub, and a bunch of other things. So it was crazy period, but like very exciting part of that. And of course, I think this call is part of a whole slew of inquiry to, like what's after the dust settles, right? The circus moves on, but like what new like camps or settlements come out of that. And I like the way this particular angle is framed. So that's partly why I'm here. My interest is always in, I've always thought of pop-up cities as kind of like universities without a campus. I think a lot of the interesting stuff that's happening today is really trying to reinvent what should be the function of a university, right? People coming together, learning, trying to like research, build new things, but like obviously for so many historical, political like reasons, like they're kind of like the university hands are tied, right? So it's kind of like almost rewilding that and creating that in different ways. So that's what my interest in this space is. I live in Malaysia, like I'm in KL right now, which is home, but mostly around Southeast Asia. So curious for what's happening. What this part of the world can contribute to that as well. Nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you, Sam. I'm Natalia. Good that you're here. Ziv,
Thank
you wanna say hello, and do you wanna reflect on what happened just now in the group, because I just had a chance to review it a little bit, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I was just being funny. I feel like people online are very easily offended, so I'm just an asshole online, and I don't really care that much. I would say a jerk, not an asshole. Asshole maybe is stronger, but I'm not a sensitive person. Anyway, I just we were online, and someone put their AI. They enabled their AI bot to speak on their behalf and just sort of start speaking to me. And it's a friend of mine who I actually respect a lot. I just spoke to him the other day, and I sent him the link. He's just busy. I knew he wouldn't be on this call. He's extremely busy. And I was suspect that he was even chatting with me at all, because the chat didn't make any sense. And I know his time and his schedule, and like he wouldn't be chatting with me right now for no reason. So it was obviously an AI, and the AI admitted to being an AI. So I just blocked his account, and that's basically it. Like there's no AIs. No one's using AI to pretend to be themselves.
Ziv, we can solve this.
You did it.
Ziv, hi. We can solve this. It just
well, I think
guys, give me a couple of minutes.
Like, Elon Musk was pretty clear about this, and so was everybody else, which is basically this is the end of the internet as we know it. And that might even be, maybe I would say that might be like a sweeping generalization, because the internet maybe was already over, but there's this idea of the free internet that started around 1990s, right? I'm 44. Most people on this call are not young. They're not, below 30. So there was that idea, and it may have been a false premise. I mean, the internet has, military roots from the U.S. Navy. It was created by the U.S. Navy officially as a communications mechanism. So it's not good to be too naive, but there really was an idea of like open free internet. And of course, the rise of programmers enabled DDoS attacks, which is essentially channel stuffing, right? Like if you have too many people on a phone call, you can't have a phone call, right? It's noise. Noise is the ultimate sort of method of attack. And this is also in biology, like bacteria don't have to actually kill the cell. They can just create noise within it to disturb it, right? So similarly, DDoS is sort of now evolving into everybody's going to use bots. And especially on social media, if you care about social media, that means that you're going to have to be ID'd, or you're just going to have to pay to use social media, because free openness to bots means that the ID is not meaningful. And also, if it's too free, then the bot will just use all the electricity. Like you'll just have AIs using AIs, right? Like if it's free. So you won't even have access to free resources, meaning like you'll just have AIs everywhere. There's methods of stopping automated sock puppetry, but if people are enabling bots on their own accounts to speak for them, there's no easy way around this. And of course, the lowest common denominator of human behavior always wins, which is why people are so frustrated with lack of community, because low-hanging idiots, especially people who are clever, I mean, I'm talking a lot here, but I'm explaining stuff to you. It's the idiots that always talk about democracy because they're being used by the sophisticated and clever assholes. And democracy is not anything but a tool, and it's a tool that can easily be corrupted against the people that wield it. And this is a great, great problem with democracy at this point in the cycle. So I'm not exactly in favor of democracy. I'm sort of against it, to be honest, because I'm against the elevation of tool use as the method of getting people to cooperate, because dictatorship could be just as good as democracy. I'm also against dictatorship. This is also tool use. So the idea is like you have to have people who are thinking about cooperation, not people who elevate tool use to the be all and end all of cooperation. Tools are just tools. People are people. The sort of commodification or externalization of tool power cannot be given freely to the idiots to be elevated, because the clever people create religions for the idiots. And that's just what happens. So I don't know that there's a way out of this, because clever people know what they're doing. And a lot of midwit, not really super smart people don't know what they're doing and think they're smart, and they're not. And then the lower idiots follow them. And that's sort of how it really works. Which is why people who are like somewhat educated are kind of problematic, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's a difficult thing. Like when you're heading into a game where very clever people win, the not so clever people who think they're smart because they have a degree or something, they can become problematic. So anyway, that's just my way of thinking about it. It's disturbing because it's starting to happen. Like we're really in the middle of it, and you have to think where we're going to be in 3 years. Like you're going to be asking someone if you're talking to them. Is that really what you're going to be doing? You think about how fucked up that is, right? Like I just don't think people are really thinking about it. And I'm not an AI doomer. I'm actually generally against them, but it's a really tough call. Like, you know, it's like if AI doesn't cause problems, the government will use AI to make sure it causes problems. That way everybody will have to trust the government to stop the government from, or anybody from causing problems. It's sort of the same thing when you think about COVID and other situations. You create the problem in order to force people to accept a solution. And so in the technological space, this is really, it's a burden. I don't know. I mean, and now, you know, we're talking about network state, and it's like fairly clear that crypto does not solve the network state problem, right? The network state problem is not merely a problem of money, it's a problem of cooperation, and money doesn't solve all of that. Just better forms of money don't solve all forms of cooperation, because cooperation has to be based on deeper levels of trust, not just arm's length transactional monetary situations. And I'm the first one to say smart contracts should have had the potential to get rid of the legal industry, and maybe they will. We have too many bureaucrats, too much lawyers, too much government, and it's nice to think of this like paper belt being swept aside by a set of technologists that render our problems nil. But in reality, there are still problems even without the need for bureaucracy. So I've said a ton, and that's about it. That's pretty much everything I've had to say.
Thank you, Ziv. Ramona, you're in the same physical location as the person of, let's say, interest right now. What did you find out?
I'm just going to let this sort of be solved
Cool.
in a different setting. But Ziv, if I may interject in terms of like with respect to AI more generally, things are happening with or without us. Diversity is part of nature. Free will is an important prerequisite for humanity's evolution. And therefore, like this variety will continue to happen, and we have to work with it. And synthetic life forms will appear. It's beyond crypto and AI at this point. People are talking about synthetic biology that they are making. And it's not people in the crypto space, in the pop-up cities. Like there will be a lot of developments which have doom potential, I think. And I do also think that we have to sit with it and be able to witness it and be able to work with it, like to the extent we are able to work with it, because it's, yeah. This is my viewpoint in terms of the, like, we are working to remove barriers to human collaboration and allow things to emerge with respect to this evolution of human aggregation models, and without trying to impose a certain vision or a certain way of being or a certain that from a little self mindset, I might think it's the best way to do it, because I don't really know everything. So this is where I'm personally coming from. And yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ramona. Just wanted to say welcome to John. Glad you made it. You're one of those people in my group that actually made it here. Norbu, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on Zeeb's share, and just to add that, along with Ramona's as well, that, I was sharing earlier, Zeeb, that I worked at Holochain the last couple of years, which uses a natural system design pattern. And they do that in their software and also in their organization and how they govern the company. And I will say that there's beautiful things about it. And there's also really tough challenges about having, like, trying to work from a natural system model, but without the absolute implicit design built in of, like, every single cell has the same instruction manual. And it's implicit. It's not like a thing they're debating. The DNA is totally clear. It's replicated throughout every cell of a being. And so every single part of a natural system is operating under fundamental principles that are immutable. They're like already exist. And that is hard to do in a human system when you're operating with natural principles. It's because if you move from centralization to decentralization, that noise factor that you're talking about, Zeev, is really, really easy to, it happens with the best intentions. You accidentally, like you're saying with democracy, you get too many voices. That's noise to signal ratio. Then no one knows what to do. Then nothing gets done. And so that is like a really interesting experience working in a fully decentralized company that I had. And I just wanted to share that experience. I'm not a doomer either. And as far as AI goes, I don't even know that agents are bad. I think this agentic phase where I can send an agent in my stead is interesting, especially if it's coupled with, rules of engagement and transparency. Like, if I send an agent, it shouldn't be in my stead without you knowing. It should be, hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to send an agent to me, and you know it, and you have a say. You know what I mean? I think that's a thing we're all going to have to work with and learn how to deal with. As, like you say, agents will be running models on our behalf because there's too many and it's too complicated. And so that is the world we're in right now already, whether people know it or not.